Well, good morning, everybody. This thing is live, I can tell. Did everybody bring their binoculars? I'm not sure I need to be up on that podium, to be honest with you. I'd rather be down here. This is a real honor and a real treat to be here today. I've known Lee pretty much my whole career and have tracked and watched what's going on in Alabama, and it is truly one of the strongest associations that I know of in the region. I know that Alabama kind of trips over associations. You've got this one, you've got the Alabama Forestry Association, you've got Tree Farmer, you've got Treasure Forest, but it seems like AFOA really hits the mark, and he's great with calendar events. And you guys are very fortunate to have Lee and Billy and the group running this organization because, again, it's very strong, excellent materials, strong group you've got here. As Lee said, Kris and I have spent a few years conducting a course that we named Forestry for Non-Foresters. For lack of a better, we had other ideas like Forestry for Dummies, based on those books. We thought, that might just be an insult to people, and we might not get audiences to come. We had Forestry Boot Camp 101, Forestry 101. And this seems to have hit the mark. Again, we've had a lot of fun. I've enjoyed my career in extension, but I have noticed that with a little bit of information on the general forestry principles and concepts, that allied professionals, again, you're going to have to get your binoculars out, sorry about that, but allied professionals, particularly now with the changing forest industry, can really talk better with the foresters they work with. Landowners can speak more intelligently with their consulting foresters. Real estate professionals have a better idea of the value and importance of forestry and even things like timber markets and these kind of things. So typically in the old days we would have secretaries and business administrator types with the forestry commissions, forestry associations. Increasingly now with many of these real estate investment trusts, the REITs, the timber investment management organizations, the TMOs, their GIS specialists, their accountants, their finance people, their administrators come in and have very little information, very little knowledge about forestry, and yet they're in charge of running a large company that may own, manage millions of acres of forest land. So this is a real aha moment for a lot of these people, and it's a lot of fun. It's very rewarding for Kris and I to have a small group of 35 to 40 people from all over. We've had people from Germany, South America come, and Pacific Northwest. So we typically have a small group, and it is a pretty intense 2.5, 3 days. How many of you have been to this? I know there's been a few, right? Maybe one or two? Yep. A couple of graduates. Landowners, as Lee mentioned, the Master Tree Farmer program, which unfortunately kind of peaked out and is in a little bit of a hiatus now. That program is more set up for landowners. But we do have landowners come to this program, and I think they really enjoy it. The Master Tree Farmer program really gets into managing your forest land, whereas this is a broad brush about the importance of forestry. We talk about forest health issues, lots of different things. And again, I'll have to read these, but when I got into this profession, I didn't know anything about famous people like Gifford Pinchot, who ended up being chief of the Forest Service and the governor of Pennsylvania. I didn't know anything about Carl Schenck and the Biltmore Estate. How many of you have been to the Biltmore Estate? Yeah, up in that area, there's the cradle of forestry, really where forestry began in the United States, and wonderful interpretive museum if you get up there. But the whole history of forestry and how it came to the United States just a little over 100 years ago is fascinating. So we talk about that. We talk about the importance of forestry. Many of our colleagues don't know that it is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and the importance starts with you all, with the land, and with the proper management and growing of these trees. So we talk a lot about that. We show some economic statistics. We can break it down by each state and really promote and compare it to agriculture, which a lot of people think agriculture is big in their state. And when they see timber products and forestry, they have a different perspective. We spend a lot of time outdoors. Luckily, the weather's been good the last few years, but rain or shine, we're out there doing a sample timber cruise, beginning with some basic compass and pacing, standard tree measurements. How do you measure a tree, a diameter of a tree at breast height? How about the height? We do a lot of that indoor, outdoor. We take a little silvicultural cruise and show the difference between a shelter wood and a clear cut and a seed tree cut. We spend some time on that. We're trying to use new technologies and bring in GIS, GPS. Maybe this year we'll have some drone demonstrations. We talk about introduction to wildlife management. I know wildlife is a huge issue of importance to many landowners. Forest health concepts, another huge issue, especially with changing weather and climate patterns. We've got some big forest health issues and needs in the southern region. And then we talk about a lot of other things, and you probably get hammered with these. And I know that the association brings you up to speed on what is forest certification, what does it mean to landowners, what does it mean to industry, what's climate change? Is it really for real? Is it affecting us? What is it doing? Is there other positive things coming out of this climate change discussion? What about bioenergy? We heard great things about that a few years ago. It's kind of tanked a little bit for the forestry industry and opportunities, but where are we going with these kinds of issues? So we spent a lot of time delving into these issues and having a lot of discussion with this group. And then another thing of interest, things like growth and yield. How do you calculate growth and yield and do timber stand estimations? So we don't get too deep into this. I think I calculated, and I can't remember the exact numbers that we spent in forestry school, but it was hundreds of hours, and yet we're trying to do all this in about 24 hours. So like I said, it's a 3-day course. This year it'll be October 18, 19, and 20 over in Athens. We'd love to have you come on over. We spend it at the University of Georgia's outdoor conference center at several hundred acres. There's probably some Auburn fans that can't make themselves get over to Athens unless there's a football game there, but maybe you can sync it up with some other activities. We have fun. Kris and I are a little bit like the Car Talk guys, and we like to have fun. We know that people learn a lot better when they're enjoying themselves and not constantly sitting and listening. So we get people up and around, we encourage them to talk, and as you'll see, Kris is the guy with a sense of humor too. Yes, sir?
What were the days?
Oh, I believe Lee will put it, and Billy will put it in the calendar, but I believe it's October 18, 19, and 20.
Tuesday,
Wednesday, and Thursday, if that's the right. Kris, did you have anything to add, or I guess I'm going to hand it over to you anyhow? But what we'll do here is just Kris will spend some time on some terms and concepts that we're taking a few of the highlights from the course right now to show you, just give you a little sampling of what you can get. So if there aren't any other questions, I'll hand it over to Kris.
Can you hear me now? Good. If we'll get the change of the PowerPoint, please. We don't want to have death by PowerPoint either. That's something we try to avoid. Well, good morning. I hope everybody's had a great morning and you're ready to have a great day. It seems like you've got a wonderful slate of activities scheduled. Bill and I are very happy to be here, as he said, to be here to tell you about forestry for non-foresters and to maybe get you excited about coming and spending a few days over in Athens. I think it's really important, and those of us who have gone through forestry school, we know that just learning terminology, once you learn that, then you can learn concepts and skills and practices. It's so much easier. So that's what I want to do, and if I mention some things, it's like, I know that, please forgive me, because oftentimes many of our audiences, they don't know what's going on. So, first of all, what's an acre? 43,560 square feet, that's right. It's about the size of a football field. A lot of people can't conceptualize 43,560 square feet, but it's almost, if you just take off that part of the football field, that's about an acre. It's a good thing to keep in mind. And it's a standard unit that we use a lot. Calculating the number of seedlings required at a certain spacing. That number is very important to use. Very simple. Cambium. What's a cambium? It's a very important layer of a tree. It's the layer that grows wood, and it's the layer that divides to the outside to be phloem, to the inside to be xylem. Xylem is wood. If you don't have xylem, you don't have product. So the cambium is a very thin layer. You've heard when you have a logging operation, don't bark the trees, right? Why? Because you bark the tree, you knock the bark off, you're more than likely damaging the cambium layer, which means you're damaging the xylem, which means you're not growing wood. It's very important, right? So, hit the right button here. The phloem transports sugars down. Needles produce sugar in photosynthesis. Carbohydrates transports it down. But the xylem, the wood, transports water and nutrients up. That's as easy as it can get. Xylem up, phloem down. Very important. DBH, you've heard about this, diameter breast height. How high off the ground do you measure it? Foresters can't answer the question. How high is DBH? 4.5 feet. 4.5 feet on the high side of the tree. Ooh, there's some feedback. Maybe it's my voice. Too strong. 4.5 feet on the high side of the tree. So if the tree's on the slope, stand on the high side. Just because. And why do we use 4.5 feet? What if you have 1,000 trees to measure? You want to measure at the base? That's like deep knee bends all day. No, we're going to measure a standard. It's going to stand up and do it. You have butt swells. Butt swell, yeah. That's a problem. What's a professional forester? Have you guys ever met you know what an oxymoron is, right? Have you ever met a living oxymoron? You have today, this guy. I'm a forester from Kansas. We do have trees, very few, more grass than trees. But I am a professional forester. I graduated from the University of Missouri from undergrad. I have a real dilemma. Undergrad at Missouri, master's at Florida, PhD at Georgia. Who do I root for? Alabama. Very well done, sir. Very well. I think I just root for the team that's winning. But a professional forester, they've graduated from an SAF accredited program. That's the key. We all know that foresters can get jobs in many different types of professions. My wife's a graduate forester. She works for a veterinary pharmaceutical company. Why? She's had chemistry. She knows about measurement. She knows about data collection and management. That's what got her the job. She knew about insects. It was kind of like, what? You're a forester? You're working for a vet pharmaceutical company? That's cool. It worked. And so I think foresters have a lot of skills that we need to use every day. Communication skills, science skills, measurement skills, computer skills. And students today have a different set of skills that they graduate with than what I did when I graduated, because computers were just coming out and a lot different set of issues. A log. Now that's a log. Any of you got those growing on your land? Yeah. Obviously this was not taken in the southeast. But a log, what's a log?
Tree on the ground.
It's 16 feet, right? One log. So, you saw those Biltmore sticks. Those will measure in logs. 25 inches from the eye, standing at a distance of one chain. You measure in logs, so units of 16 feet. Mass. It's not what's on a ship. What's mass? Hard mass, soft mass, you've heard about this. If there's any of you really managing for wildlife, are you diversifying what you're doing? Wildlife, mass is very important. You have hard mass and soft mass. Very good to diversify if you like to have different wildlife on your property. You just have to stay behind the speaker. I like to wander. I'm from Kansas. I wander the plains, it's no problem. Mass is very important that you think about diversifying, and different wildlife species use different mass. There are also nice flowering possibilities on your properties of beautification. What's a stand? What's a forest stand? How would you define it? You're like my students. That's exactly right, sir. A grouping of trees with similar characteristics. It could be age, it could be species. So we can manage stands as a unit, right? Did you see this presentation before? And that's very important. So imagine this is your property. I wish I had that much. And then this is all different stands by age. You've heard about GPS, GIS. This is what GIS technology can give us. So say that you want to look at all stands 7 years or older for possible fertilization. You could quickly find the color orange in there. You could have those show up, determine the number of acres, determine proximity to each other. Maybe you have to fly it for herbicide. Whatever you need, you can look at these stands and determine. Regeneration is another issue. But a stand, it's not a clump, it's not a group, it's a stand. We use the term stand. Primarily similar characteristics. That's the bottom line. Whoop, mashed the wrong button there. Reforestation. There's another term that some people have never heard, afforestation. Does anybody know the difference? Reforestation is when we harvest, we site prep, and we plant. We are reforesting a previously forested state. Afforestation would be if you had a pasture that's been pastured for decades and you want to put trees back on there and change, it's going to trees from a previous use. That's called afforestation. We practice reforestation, don't we? We are forest landowners and we are growing trees. So reforestation, we know that there are different types of processes that we can use in reforestation. Natural regeneration or artificial. Artificial regen, hand plant, machine plant, right? How many of you ridden a machine planter? Woo! That can get rough on some sites. It's pretty brutal. They've got it made pretty easy there. And to me, that's probably planting a windbreak. I don't think that's afforestation of the whole field. But regeneration and reforestation manually, any of you run a HODAD all day? That'll give you a forearm. I'll tell you what. And by doing artificial regen, we get to control the density, we get to control genetics. Two big things. Very, very important, right? We've got several vendors out here that are selling seedlings. We can control for genetics this way. Otherwise, as opposed to natural regeneration, seed tree is a good one. Shelter wood is another silvicultural practice where we get natural regeneration. We don't control for genetics. And that's important there because we have diseases we're controlling for, growth, yield that we're controlling for. So it's very important. I hit the other thing. Silviculture. Silva meaning tree, culture, the growing of. Therefore, it is silviculture. The art and science of growing to stand, tending a forest from planting to final harvest. Final harvest, aka clear cut, here in the South, oftentimes. But it's that practice where we have no action and you can see what might happen. Silviculture we're managing. In pine forestry, we are managing to maintain a certain stage of succession, right? That's what we're doing. We're keeping this forest from moving from a pine forest, which is a stage of succession in which the climax is hardwood. So we're always getting those darn hardwoods out of there. Well, it's, Mother Nature wants to go that way. And we're doing it by thinning, and we're also controlling those hardwoods in the meantime with different ways of either selection, group selection, or a clear-cut final cut. So you guys have seen these things in practice, but have you ever thought about what it is actually going on? Even age management, pretty straightforward. All trees the same age, planted at approximately the same time. Why? Sir? Harvesting purposes? Efficiency. Efficiency is the big one. Efficiency from the standpoint of if you're fertilizing, if you're running a thin through there, you're going to have similar agents. You're going to have a lot more ability to manage the stand as a whole, particularly if you're doing other activities. SMZ, how many of you know about, have you been a part of establishing an SMZ on your property? So it's very important, right? Who has never heard this term? A few of you. Okay, good. An SMZ is, well, let's just go to the next one. This strip of vegetation bordering drainages. And you can see they're there and laid out in this photo. It's very important that they vary from state to state. Slope is a big driving factor as to how wide those SMZs need to be. Check your state regulations, and it's primarily for protecting water quality. That's number one. Very, very important. Here's that succession thing I was telling you about. Some of you maybe been around a little while, that you've seen some areas that have open fields that have been left alone, and they go through this natural succession of grasses and forbs, perennials, shrubs. Then you get the pines, and then we get the hardwoods. You know, we try to maintain our pine stands in this stage. It's a natural process. It's going to happen. But we have herbicides, and we have PSI, and we have thinning, and we have other activities to maintain them. Plus, we get a good site closure on that quickly. We'll keep a lot of this competition down. Sustainable forest management. I think we all do that here. I don't think I need to say much more than that. We want to have trees. That's our livelihood. That's our interest. We sustainably manage our forests so that we continue to have a harvest and that the future generations will have it as well. So I'm going to switch gears here now. That's just a smattering of terms, and there's so many more. There's a whole book of a glossary of forestry terms that I didn't even begin to touch on. You can find them out there on the internet. Come to Forestry. Non-foresters will give you a few more terms. But what's a tree? Does anybody know the definition of a tree? A woody plant has a well-defined stem and crown, and it's usually mature, has a mature height of 20 feet or more. Now granted, you're going to say, but I've seen dogwoods only this tall. And that's the tallest they've ever been for the last 40 years. But dogwoods normally they are a tree, and they will get bigger. Could you name the parts of the tree and their function? Maybe not at this time of day, but I'm sure that we could. There you go. Roots, trunk, and crown. Roots, stem, and crown. Those are the three primary parts, but they all have different functions. The roots. The roots stabilize, right? That's their sole function. And they take up the water and nutrients. They anchor the tree. Over 85% of a tree's root system, this is a generality, over 85% are found in the top 18 inches of the soil. Therefore, driving your machinery and parking under trees is not a good idea because you compact the soil, therefore you reduce water infiltration, and also roots breathe, they need to respire, and CO2 goes away as well as O2 enters the soil. So it's very important that, because it's these small lateral roots and root hairs that are found right up in here. You've all dug around the tree and God, massive fine roots that you dig up. That comprises most of the weight, not the big, larger roots that are down here. It's all the fine roots, the small lateral root hairs. That's where all the absorption takes place, primarily. Trunk. Supports, big one. It's also the highway for water, nutrients up in the xylem, sugars and phloem down from the crown. Storage as well. You hear the term carbon sequestration. Where do you think the tree stores? Trees are sinks for carbon, right? That's why they're really good for the atmosphere. Where does it store the carbon? In the trunk, as wood, as xylem. In the crown. What happens in the crown? Photosynthesis, where trees produce tree food. Tree food is not N, P, and K in a bag that you buy at the box store. Those are nutrients, right? Nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium that's not tree food. If a tree doesn't have any leaves, what happens? It dies. Because it can't produce the sugars that are necessary. That's tree food. I get on my soapbox that way. Takes in the CO2, the photosynthesis produces and separates that CO2, and it releases oxygen and water, and the carbon stays and is formed into sugars. Any questions on trees? What basic functions? Okay, there'll be a quiz now. A forest. We know that our country's blessed with a lot of forest land, and about a third is forest land. I come from this area. It's tough being a tree in the Great Plains. So we are back down here in the heart of wonderful, beautiful country we live in. And we do have a lot of wonderful forests. A little bit closer view. Right about there. I can't hold it steady enough. And so it's right around that oak, hickory, oak, pine forest types that it's saying. But you can see the forest types change as you move throughout the country, and it's due to climate. They say there's elm, ash, and cottonwood. Yes, there are elm, ash, and cottonwood. Not too many. Here's a great diagram. I always like to freak my students out when I show them this. I tell them to study it well. There will be a quiz. And they like to see that there's too many lines and boxes, but the point here, a forest is complex. It has so many different functions of the living and the non-living. The forest ecosystem itself, it's amazing. So what you do as forest landowners, managing these unique, dynamic, complex systems is awesome. I can't thank you enough. Forest is dynamic, isn't it? You've seen it. You've all experienced climatic conditions that have created devastating situations, forest fire. Any of you been to, you ever did that after your brain is coming? You ever been part of a hurricane? Yeah, that's a big problem. Have you been out to Oregon and Washington to see the volcano? Yeah. It's amazing what is going on after that, all regeneration. It stopped working. I got nothing. Okay, there we go. What's the forest provide? It provides a lot of things. Timber, non-timber, climate control, pollution abatement. We know that trees are good for the atmosphere because they're taking in CO2 and other pollutants and storing those. We know about wildlife habitat. We know about water protection, as well as recreation and solitude. You ever stood under a tree and said, oh, it's cooler under here. It must be the shade. No. It's from the evaporation occurring in the ground, and it's cooling the air around it. That's the actual function. And evaporation, the driving force up here, and then through cohesion, you know water sticks, right? The ability of water to stick together holds water columns together in here, and therefore it can pull the water from the roots. That's how water gets to the top of a giant sequoia. Same concept. Right there. Physics. Foresters have to take physics.
Capillary action, is that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And that term right there. Together in capillary-sized xylem elements. Xylem up. Wildlife habitat, we know that. That's why a lot of us have forest land, and if you hunt or just want to do wildlife viewing, what a better place than a forested area. We know it's a water purifier. Water cycle does it all. Simple water cycle. Anybody know what this red line indicates on this topographic map? What's this area in here? It's a watershed. A watershed. If a drop of rain falls on the outside of the line, it's going to go to another watershed, or it's going to drain somewhere else. But if it falls on the inside of the line, it's all going to drain down here. A watershed. But it's important to know that trees help purify water, and watershed protection is important. Protecting on the watershed level. We all like to recreate in our forest. Sometimes it's nice. I have a little piece of the pie. It's a little 20-acre tract in Madison County, Georgia. And it's my piece of heaven. I go there, and sometimes I just go down by the river, just sit and just listen and just enjoy it. And that's as much of anything to me as important. And I get this is the place of renewal for me. No internet, no phone, nobody coming by my office. Once Bill Hubbard moved to Florida, my life got more quiet, relaxed. I'm teasing Bill, you know that. But it's a renewable resource. We know that we can sustain our forests. We know that they are resilient to devastation. They regrow. Bill?
Dr. Hubbard. Great. Good conversation. Super. And what Kris didn't tell you is the reason I moved to Florida was to maintain my sanity. It worked out well. What did it do? Increase the IQs of both states or something? Yeah, Kris and I do have a little friendly competition, and he might have a big lawn, but I've got more of them. So. And that actually is the future of forestry in the South when we have climate change, right? So we're going to have all that extra carbon dioxide in the area, and we're going to have warmer, longer seasons. We got to get that water thing figured out, but you can't always look at climate change as a bad thing, right? So think positive. It's all in how you think about it. Because we're going to change gears a little bit, and this is our second, usually our second discussion about terms and concepts. And how many foresters, how many professional foresters we have in the room? 1, 2, 3. Evan's a professional forester. Are you trying to hold his hand down? Okay. Okay, so we're going to get into some measurements. We're going to talk about products, and would really like your input on what local knowledge is on this, because these are region-wide discussions, and we'd love to get your input. So I might put you on the spot. So one of the first things that people that get into the forest industry do, whether they're accountants or finance people or GIS, is they're confused by the myriad of products, typical products that come out of the forest. Now those of you that have sold timber and been in this industry for many, many years and have had that land for many, many years have probably heard a lot of these terms and concepts, but this is getting to the basic level where the general public has no clue what do you mean by pulpwood, chip and saw timber. And so we spend some time talking about these terms and concepts. Oftentimes, there's great price reporting systems out there where you can get an idea of what the prices are for each of these variable products. And again, talking about these products, we explained that you can have more than one product, several products coming off your land, right? And so these are important concepts that maybe somebody coming out of the typical agricultural field doesn't understand. You could have pulpwood, chip and saw, even saw timber products coming off of your property, and you need to keep an eye on that, because the fact is that many landowners only sell their timber, their trees maybe a couple, 3 times in their lives, whereas the industry end of things, these guys are buying and selling every day. So you've got that, what they call that imperfect information in the market system, where someone has all that information and the other one doesn't. So what we try to do with this course, at least with landowners and that master tree farmer program, is bring that knowledge level up. Did I lose my? Okay, no, that's right. Sorry. So we try to bring that knowledge level up a little bit for everybody involved. So we talk about the board foot, and again, it might seem very basic, logical to you all, but visualizing it has always helped in our course. We talk about this, and sometimes Kris will have a board foot there, and it'll show what that is. Basically, it's a measure of a piece of wood, 12 inches by 12 inches by 1 inch. If you actually calculate the cubic inches, that's 144 cubic inches. That can be green dimensions. It can also be dried, measured. And basically, that's the finished product of the tree, so that when you're cutting those logs, you have that board foot heading off to the middle. And there are different log rules out there. We're not going to get into how to measure each of these. What's the standard used here in Alabama? Scribner? Okay, so the Scribner log rule. And basically, as sawmills cropped up around the country, around the world, different mills use different rules. They had different equipment, different machinery, and several different log rules arose out of that based on timber products. Cubic foot now, when we hear about cubic foot, oftentimes board feet, we're talking about saw timber usually being sold on a board foot basis, now increasingly more on a weight basis. We'll talk about that in a minute. Cubic foot, you're typically talking, that's how pulpwood sales are when you're talking about cords. That's basically a cubic foot measurement, 78 cubic feet in a cord. And a cubic foot then is just a nice little square block, 1 foot by 1 foot by 1 foot, and with or without bark, and then oftentimes estimated with a volume table. And when you think about volume tables, it's really actually quite simple. make it very complicated when you start bringing in statistics and all that, but it's very simple when you think about most trees, and especially pine trees, are what shape? Conical, long cylinder, basically a cylinder of a cone shape. And so you can use it basically a very simple formula. Kris talked about diameter at breast height, okay, measured right about there. And then height, which again, we get out and use a clinometer or other tools or telescopes to measure the height. And your cubic feet can be estimated out in the woods by that simple formula. And again, there are very, very different variations of that based on the species. There are volume estimation tables for all the hardwoods in the country, all the softwoods, but it all boils down to basically a fairly simple formula on how to calculate cubic feet. Okay, we talk a lot about cords. Again, it was very standard up until maybe, 10, 15 years ago to sell on a cord basis. And so a cord, whether it's a cord of firewood or a cord of pulpwood, is going to be a stack of wood 4 feet by 8 feet long by 4 feet high. So you got 4 feet wide, 8 feet long, 4 feet wide. And that comes out to 120 cubic feet, but that oftentimes includes bark and air and dirt and leaves. And there's that spacing in between each log when you stack it. And so 128 cubic feet oftentimes is the maximum, which you're looking at anywhere from 80 to 95 actual cubic feet of wood in a cord. 96 cubic feet in this case. Okay, so we spent a lot of time talking about, what is pulpwood? And again, in this region, what are pulpwood characteristics? Is it usually 6 inches, 8 inches, trees in diameter and less?
Usually, less than 10 inches to get the chip size.
Okay.
For quality.
Right, quality is the big thing, yeah. So typically, region-wide, we're taught that a pulpwood tree, pulpwood stand, are going to be those trees, smaller trees, younger trees, or poorly grown trees, 8 inches in diameter or less at breast height. It can also be tops of larger trees. It could be byproducts from other mills. So the pulp mills can take a lot of different things. They don't have to just take the pulpwood trees, but they can take tops, they can take chips, and they can take all sorts of different things. And again, it's primarily for the very large pulp and paper industry here in the southern region. And again, one of the reasons we're known as the wood basket of the world, right? Typically, it's the least valuable product in a stand. You're looking at very short rotations, 15 to 20 years. Does that sound right? And the idea, again, based on landowner objectives, do you want to just sell when the pulpwood prices are higher? Do you want to give it a consulting professional forester and look at the longer-term objectives? Because many people see those pulpwood prices at a good price and they want to sell. And in reality, they can do a little thinning and increase their returns by managing a little bit longer, getting into the chip and saw and soft timber size stands. Chip and saw, a little bit bigger trees now, and the idea here is exactly what it sounds like. It is you get some soft timber out of that tree, you can get some chips out of that tree that will be merchandised to the pulp mill. And so chip and saw is a little bit higher value. I don't know what it's going for now in this part of the country, but you're going to get a better return on your investment. Is it good? Not good? Not good. But I'll show you a little graphic here in a second. But basically, you get lumber from small trees. In the old days, they were used for pulpwood, but with the increasing technology improvements in sawmills, you can now get some 2x4s out of that, and you can get a 4x4 cant. Some people call it big pulpwood, but basically, this is what you've got. So you've got at the sawmill, you bring in that nice, beautiful round log. You got these chipper heads that'll take it down and chip all that off. And there's your either 4x4 cant or your 2x4s. Okay? Any questions about pulpwood or chip and saw? Two of the primary products here in the southern region. Saw timber gets a little trickier. In the old days, the sawmills could take some pretty big timber right now. Now they're I don't know what the maximum limits are. 28 inches now. Typically, saw timber trees are going to be, again, your larger trees, 12 inches and up in this case. Maximum, I said 22, but over here you can take still 28 inches on the butt, okay. Again, you can merchandise some of the slabs, some of the chips and all that, and get more for the return. And that's one thing you negotiate with your buyers through your consulting foresters. And again, it's been typical that it's been purchased on the stump through 1,000 board feet. And we'll talk about how that's done in a minute. Now things move to a ton basis. There are also veneer logs. Anybody sold veneer logs from their property? One, couple people. Now you're starting to get into some higher value trees, right? Those are peeler logs. And again, typically used to peel for plywood, for veneer, other products, and free of knots. They're straight. Can bring quite a bit more than your typical saw timber sale. And then even utility poles, and even higher value product. Is that still a product of value here in the northern part of the state? And so these are going to be probably one of your highest value products that come out of the forest. Get with your consulting forester and see if you've got some pole opportunities on your property. Really great opportunity with the bringing the longleaf pine ecosystem back. A lot of interest in that. A lot of cost share programs. A lot of landowners interested in planting longleaf. Longleaf is a perfect species for utility pole production. But you've got to catch them at the right time. They could grow out of those pole classes. And they're straight, with little to no sweep, no knots, all those kinds of things. But again, they can bring 50%, 30 to 50% more than saw timber. How many of you have had your timber cruised? Okay. We're going to talk a little bit about that. As far as volume estimation goes, that's the whole purpose of a timber cruise, to get an idea of your volume out there. It goes back to a couple basic concepts. And again, we teach this in the course. We need to measure the diameter, and we need to measure the height. And we can measure the height. Various tables will either measure height to total height or a merchantable top and a different 6 or 8 inch merchantable top. And you can use a tree scale, you can use a reloscope, you can use a clinometer. And in this case, you're 66 feet out. You can also use a tool that can take 100 feet out, and that'll estimate your volume for that one tree. A lot of times foresters will use what's called a volume table. This doesn't have the species listed, but you can see some readily identifiable features. You've got total tree height here, 30 feet all the way up to 100 feet, diameter of breast height. Down here in 2-inch classes, a lot of times foresters will measure their diameters in 2-inch classes. And in this case, you've got this form class 2, which talks a little bit about the form of the trees. And then you've got the resulting numbers, which are actual cords. And so in this case, you've got 0.029 cords in that class of 30-foot high trees and 6-inch diameter trees. So this can all be calculated, it can be converted to tons, it can be converted to a stand level. So these are some of the things that foresters begin to use as they work with you on your timber stand. So things now are mostly sold on weight. It's more common. We realize that a ton is a ton, whereas cords and board feet and all these things are subject to a little bit of manipulation and confusion. But now the industry has moved to selling things on a per ton basis. It does vary slightly by region, by species, believe it or not, how long it's been since it was cut. Typically, things are sold at green weight. There's a lot of moisture there in the trees and bark and these kinds of things, which can change that weight after a little while. But for the most part, things are sold that way. Here's your conversion factors. Again, I don't know if you can read these or not. 1 quart of pine pulpwood is equal to 2.675 tons. And again, the studies have shown that can range across the region 2.35 to 2.8 tons. Hardwood pulpwood is a little heavier, 2.9 tons. 1,000 board feet of pine saw timber is 7.5 tons, and again, a little bit of a range there. And then 1,000 board feet of hardwood saw timber is 8.75 tons. So if you've got those volume measurements and you need to convert them to tons, there are lots of good fact sheets out there. Mississippi State has one, I don't know about Auburn. Great materials out there on how to do that. So that's the one thing about the forestry community in the South, between the state agency, between extension, between industry, you can find all you need out there on this kind of information. So if you want to learn more about calculating weights, selling by weights, I recommend you look at some of the publications. So another thing foresters are very interested in, because you're very interested, is growth and yield. And a lot of times that's tossed around. People just don't totally understand it. They understand the concept of growth, and they understand the concept of yield. But when you throw all that together, landowners sometimes just shut down. So we talk a lot about what we use with growth and yield, because a lot of times when you sit down with your forester, or when industry will work things out, they're going to do some simulations. They're going to look at growth and yield tables. They're going to want to know what their investment looks like if they plant something today in 15, 20, 30 years, based on expected market conditions, sensitivity kinds of analyses, what their return on investments are going to be. And most of you will do the same thing too. So to understand all that, and understand projecting all these into the future, we walk through growth and yield. And so this little simple exercise, yield is the amount of standing or existing volume at a specific point in time. And again, it could be weight, it could be volume, mass, other kinds of things. In this particular case, we're looking at the trees in the stand, and it's at that particular point in time. So a little example, you've got a pine stand at 15 years of age. It's got 81 tons per acre of standing merciable fiber. At age 20, that same stand has now 110 or 108 tons per acre of standing merciable fiber. So the yield at age 15 is 81 tons per acre. The yield at 20 is 108 tons per acre. Simple concept, right? So the growth then is just simply that change in the size, volume, weight, other characteristic over that specific time period. And so again, fairly simple concepts, but sometimes it helps just to go through it. So here are the two yields. We know the periodic growth then is going to be 27 tons over that 5 years. If you want to know your average annual growth, 27 tons per acre over the 5 years would be 5.4 tons per acre per year. Or if we go into the divide that figure I just had to go to cords, you're looking at 2 cords per acre per year. So why is that important to a landowner? Does anybody know why we need to understand that, other than maybe for estimating out in the future?
When you get to the point of diminishing returns.
Now, return on your investments,
Diminishing returns.
diminishing returns. The other thing too is you can look at that and compare that possibly to what land of your type should be producing per acre. And if it's not up to speed, say your consulting forester says, well, typically in this part of the state, on a good piece of property, you're looking at maybe closer to 3 cords per acre or 2.5 cords per acre. Well, you can talk to your forester about ways to improve that through density management, possibly fertilizing, these kinds of things. So understanding that growth is pretty important, and the yield. Questions? Okay, here's another tricky one, and again, kudos to Auburn and the Alabama Cooperative Extension Service for a fantastic publication on Basal Area and the uses of it and how to calculate it. Now, the way we try to explain this is, if you look at it, if you looked at say an aerial photo of an acre of land, which is how many square feet? 43,560, that's right. If you looked at that and you had just clear cut that acre of land, and you can see those stumps down there, you can see nice little circles. And as Lee said, I spent a lot of time doing stump proofing, so I know what a stump looks like. But you can see that circle down there. You can see all those little circles down there. Okay? One of those circles you can calculate the basal area, right, which is simply the area of the circle, okay? This crazy formula, 0.005454,154 times dBH squared, is simply calculating the area of that circle. Now the confusing part of that is, you guys remember from, is it geometry, what the area of the circle is? What the formula is? Okay. Pi r squared, right? We learned that in 6th grade. So this is basically pi r squared. And the reason that it looks like that is it's calculated some of that for you because you've got pi, which is 3.1415. That's about all I can remember. And you also have diameter involved here, whereas the circle uses the radius. Okay, so I'm not going to get into the whole dynamics behind this, but this formula is basically the area of the circle. Okay, and so you'll have the area of one circle. If you do that on a per acre basis, you'll have a number that adds up all of those areas of those circles, and you'll have a number, and that number might be 80. Right? It might be 100, it might be 140. That is a very telling number for you and your professional forestry. It gives you a great idea on the density of that stand, where you need to be, where you could be, whether you need to thin it, whether you need to do other things to it. And so basal area is a pretty important concept. And again, great information out there on how it's calculated and how you can use it. It's very important for determining percent stocking, density, giving those trees room to grow and to produce to their maximum benefit. Okay, another area that we talk about is site index. And again, some of these people come down from New York City and have no idea what site index or site productivity is. We spent a little time with them talking about that. All land is not created equal. We know that, right? We've got past land use. We've got the basic structure of the soil. We've got the amount of rock and clay and silt and loam and all that in there, and past organic matter. And so we know that sites are not equal. And you know that if you're going to go out there and buy a piece of land for a specific production of a crop or a timber crop or whatever, you want the best site you can get, right? Well, one way to calculate that and to make some comparisons industry-wide is through site index curves and calculating the site index. And that will help determine the productive capacity of the land. And so it's really another simple measurement concept that is used quite a bit, and it's got lots of different applications in forestry. So the site index, let's see if I've got an actual curve. Yeah, okay. So if you look at how a tree grows from seedling all the way up to say 60 years, you've got differences, the height, you can measure those heights along that curve, right? Well, a site index will standardize everything to a base age 25 years. And so right now, for example, we don't have the exact number in there, but let's just say it's somewhere between 43 and 59 feet. So if we were going to go halfway between that, let's say it was 51 feet, okay? So that the site index on that land is 51 feet. Is that a good site index? Probably not, right? What's that? For certain counties, it might be pretty good. That's right. That's right. So that gives you an idea to compare across pieces of property you might have or others. Yeah, comment.
Some of the soil surveys.
Okay.
Know which one you're looking
Very good point. Very good point. There's another term of site. Is it site quality? Is that what it's called? Site quality actually uses a 50-year number. Okay, so you gotta know the difference whether you use site index or site quality. Site quality was typically used when we had a lot of natural stands. And so you go out there in a natural pine plantation and calculate these numbers. Now more and more we've got planted pines. We're looking at base age 25. So the higher that number, the better off it is. So if I gave you a site index of 75, what would that mean? What would that mean, just real quickly off the top of your head?
75, 75, and 25 years.
That's right. The dominant and co-dominant trees, the larger trees, are going to be averaging 75 feet at 25 years of age. Okay? And so they've got these wonderful site index curves, which we actually have put on an app for those of you that have a smartphone or an Android I searched Forestry Handbook, and we developed this little Forest Service handbook that's been around for 50 years. So we updated that and put all the site index curves on there, as well as a ton of other information on there. It's free, paid for by the USDA Forest Service. Sorry, Lee, we do take federal dollars, but we turn it around and make good things for you guys. But it's got a lot of growth and yield, it's got a lot of timber estimation stuff on it, and again, it's free of charge. But anyway, there's a lot of these paper copies of site index curves, base age 25. And you can see, again, if you could read these, you've got site index 40 all the way up to 80 on the right side, ages 10 to 30 down below here, and then the total height of the dominant trees from 10 to 90. So anywhere on here, if you find once you calculate, if you're out there and you've got a 10-year-old, let's say you have a 15-year-old stand, you went out there and measured it, and they were 50 feet high, and you want to know what your site index curve is. So you go to this little spot right here, 15, and you go up and you catch that curve at 50, and you got it somewhere between a site index 70 and a site index 80. So not a bad stand, not a bad stand at all. These are all made for species. I didn't put the species on here. This is probably either slash or lob lolly. Okay, so a couple of the last concepts we talk about in these sessions are looking at how we calculate, basically how you calculate the value of the forest stand. And it's, again, a very simple concept. It's the volume or weight times the price per unit times acres. And you can see how simple these calculations are. And again, not trying to belittle this and talk, too basic here, but a lot of people that get into the forest industry and forestry community don't understand this. And so we spend a lot of time talking about how you calculate, how you go from your volumes to calculating your values. So I just want to finish with talking a little bit about timber cruising, because I know that is something that you hear a lot about. It's something very important. It's one of these things where you wouldn't sell something, you wouldn't sell your diamond ring or your car without knowing the value of it, right? So same thing with timberland. We don't want to go out there and sell that without having a good idea of what the value is. And get that, you start with the volume. So forest inventories typically deal with the trees. More and more now, we've got inventories that include the underbrush or the biodiversity or certain types of grasses or what have you. But we're talking about getting out there to understand what your timber volumes are, your products, classes, site indices. But while they're out there, while your forester's out there, they're also doing a checkup on the health of your stand, the overall health of your stand. So timber crews can do a lot more than just finding out what your volumes are. They can notice infestation spots or invasive species, pests, and these kinds of things. So lots of good stuff going on out there. Cruises, again, typically, I did hear at breakfast this morning that somebody had 100% cruise done, mark and tally, but a lot of times when you're dealing with several hundred acres, you're going to do a sampling. You're not going to do 100%. It's been done before. There's a whole, Greg, variation from the window cruise going down the road at 60 miles an hour to somebody going out there and marking every tree. And everything in between. But typically, statistics are used and sample plots are put in, and a couple different ways to do that. Lots of times random sampling is used. We grew up a lot on 10th acre plots, doing a 10th acre plot, which is basically 37.2 feet in radius all the way around and measuring all those trees. And then all you have to do is blow that up by a sample of 10 just to get your volume estimates per acre. Most common now are fixed area plots and point sampling. Your foresters know a lot more about that than I do. But again, fixed area plots, you're looking at, you could be seedling. A lot of times when you go out there and do a seedling survival plot, you're only going to do 100. You're going to do a 100th acre plot. But with timber cruising, you're going to do a 10th acre plot. All the trees in that plot are measured. Point sampling, you use a special gauge called a prism, and it's a little magic gauge. How many of you used a prism or seen a prism before? 15 or 20 of you. I don't know if Kris brought one or not. He usually has a bag of tools with a little piece of glass, refractory, and through measurements beyond my understanding, you basically use that little tool that can tell you which trees are in and out on your plot. You just measure it all the way around the circle. Random sampling, transit lines, kind of thing. So here's what a fixed plot looks like, for example. See if I can get all this. Okay, so here's the center of your plot, and there's your 37.2 feet, which gives you the 10th acre plot, which would be 4,356 square feet in that plot. And you just measure that, you just pull your tape all the way around, and those trees that are in, you measure and you tally. The borderline trees, you have to come up with a decision whether to count every other one. And then those that are out, obviously you don't tally. Every tree you tally in there, you get the diameter and the height, boom, you blow it up, you get your volumes. Pretty simple, pretty simple. Now again, here's this little prism tool, which I'd love for everybody. I don't know if our tree measurements gentleman's going to have that down there, but he'll show you how to use this thing. It takes a little work, but you can see, here's your tree, and here's your eyeball, and you're looking through that little prism. And if the tree is, if that bowl of the tree is so removed that you can see space between there, that tree is out. Here's a borderline tree where the middle section of that gauge is shifted over, but it's still in the line. That's a borderline tree. And those that are in do not have a total shift outside of the line of vision. So hopefully you get a chance to use one of those. And again, real simple. You've got a plot center just like you do with your fixed area plot. And using that gauge, there's a little prism gauge, you'll be able to tell which trees that are in and out, and then there are opportunities to check those that are on the border.
It's all based on diameter of that tree and the distance of the prism, which is held over plot center. You put a post in the ground, you hold the prism over the post or plot center, and you do spin around like this basically. But it's called the limiting sight distance. So it's from the prism to the middle of the tree. If Bill's doing I'm the tree, you would measure to the center of the tree, not to the front of the tree. You actually have to pull the tape, the skin and out. Those are clear. But those borderline trees, you may want to pull a tape. But again, foresters, what do you think? He's shaking his head. He says it depends, I think.
Well, it's, according to Reforestation, it's either in or out. You have to do the extras.
I mean, if you really have a bunch.
One of my preferences with corn sampling system is you do get quick measure replacement every year. You have that information. You make so many manual decisions based on that.
That's right.
To me, that's the biggest thing.
The biggest advantage of point sampling, Lee says the biggest advantage is you're able to obtain your basal area fairly efficiently, very efficiently, quickly. And a lot of decisions are made on that. So just a couple different ways to cruise your timber. Okay, so these are your plots. This is called a systematic line plot, point inventory. And you basically pull out your map and you just place your plots down in equally distant areas on the map. And then you just get out there with the forester and do compass and pacing and lay your transect line and put your plots in. Or you can do random. You can use a grid map and do random sampling, random plot inventory. Depending on the type of property you have, not everyone has this nice 100 acres of pine plantation. You're going to want to make sure you appropriately cruise your different areas if you're interested in knowing your volumes on your pine plantations, your upland hardwoods, bottomland hardwoods. That's called a stratified forest sample. So if your forester ever uses that word, now you know what it is, right? And that is all I've got. We could go on forever, but I know you guys probably need a break.